Hey guys, are you getting ready for the holidays yet? Did you enjoy my conversation with Milagro Sequeira? What do your 2024 goals look like? Have you listened to all of our episodes yet? I would love to hear from you. I hear from a few people here and there, and it is always great to hear that you guys are enjoying the podcast. I always give out my email, but for the most part, I will hear from listeners through the podcast Facebook, Instagram, and my personal LinkedIn. I never really used LinkedIn a whole lot before starting the podcast, but lately I have been really active on there, and it has been a great way to connect with some pros. So if you're not on LinkedIn, I recommend that you go on there because it seems to be a good way to connect with other professionals in the tennis world. I really do mean it when I say I want to hear from you. One of the reasons I do this podcast is because I have always felt that pros don't really communicate with each other. Everyone is just doing their own thing. And I have been trying to think of ways of getting more and more of our listeners to actually get connected. I have considered maybe doing some lives on social media. So maybe we can do that at some point next year. But for now, I have something else in mind. I want to hear from you, and I have an important question that I want to ask you. I want to know which episode of Vida Tennis has been your favorite in 2024. I mean, we've only been out this year, so which episode has been your favorite this year? I will give you a shout out and read your message, or you can leave me a voicemail and I can play that voicemail here on the podcast and also give you a shout out. So make sure you include where you're currently teaching or playing, so we also give your club a shout out. Well, I'm excited to see your answers. Let's go. Today, I have a special episode for you with a fellow Tampa coach, Ed Krass. He is a legend in his own right, and I know you will enjoy hearing his story and how he developed one-on-one doubles, coaching at top colleges in the U.S., speaking at tennis conferences, how to best run events. If you know Ed, you know he always brings a ton of energy and he's just really fun to be around. So get ready to learn from one of the best out there, only here at Vida Tennis. Enjoy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Vida Tennis, the podcast for those of us who eat, sleep, breathe tennis. Today, I'm excited to talk with the one and only one-on-one doubles king, Ed Krass. He is the founder and director of, you guessed it, one-on-one doubles tournaments, which is a crazy fun, unique tournament style that is sanctioned by the USTA and UTR. Ed is also the founder and director of College Tennis Exposure Camps, which is the only tennis camp taught exclusively by top head college tennis coaches. He's a USTA High-Performance Coach and has been a speaker at the USTA, ITA, USPTA, PTR, you name it. Ed was the head coach for Harvard's women's tennis team and Clemson's men's tennis team before that. He also coached at the University of Central Florida, which is his alma mater. Welcome, Ed, to Vida Tennis. What an incredible career in tennis you've had.
Thank you, Jen. It's been a great ride. I'm having a lot of fun still, and I'm staying very active, enjoying all this great tennis, you know?
Amazing. So how did it all start for you? How did you get started in coaching? And was that always the plan for you when you were in college?
I got started in coaching back in the day. I think when I was 16, I got a chance to be an assistant tennis pro at Westchester Country Club when I was playing tennis at Edgemont High. And then I got a chance to work with Harry Hopman at his international tennis camp in the summers when I was playing for University of Central Florida. So I was able to get good experience on how to train players and give them good shot making and physical conditioning all within one live ball drill. So I got a little taste for how to get good at this type of training. Of course, there was a lot more to learn, but it kind of led the way for me to coaching collegiately at University of Central Florida right after I finished playing there.
And would you say that you have mostly coached high performance players, or have you worked with beginners and kids and all that?
When I used to work at a club back in the early 90s and back when I was coaching at a club. So I've had a chance to work with beginners and intermediates, and I enjoy that. But it's been mainly people that want to go on and play college tennis and college level players.
I love college tennis. I loved to watch it, loved coaching it too. I loved match day. That was my favorite part. It's just the competition. That was always really fun as a coach to get to experience. But you were at some top programs. What was it like to coach at some of these programs like Harvard? I mean, that's unbelievable. I'm sure that was very different from being in Florida, Central Florida, and Clemson. So can you talk a little bit about maybe how that experience was?
Yeah, I mean, I had to do a little bit of a 360 as far as my mental approach to coaching the women at Harvard. It was a little bit more learning how to listen. And then when I do speak, make sure it was relevant and powerful. So I did a lot less speaking at Harvard, a lot more listening, but it did make me a lot better coach in the long run. Whereas at Clemson, when I was the head assistant men's coach under the legendary coach Chuck Creasy, he's like the Bobby Knight of college coaching, still ticking. And of course, it was more my way or the highway type of coaching. And the kids were on the scholarships, and they were very much into doing whatever the coach had suggested. So at Harvard, it's more about explaining the reason why we're doing something. And that was the most motivating way of teaching the players at Harvard how to maybe get to the next level, shall we say.
Was that because they weren't getting scholarships, or what do you think that was?
Well, I think that you're dealing with a little bit maybe more intellectual player that's playing in the Ivy Leagues, because you have so many candidates that want to go to an Ivy League school, and the ones that get in are very well educated, and a lot of them are not, they're really not on any scholarship per se. A lot of them are paying full boat to go there. So almost like a Division III scenario, they're playing college tennis because they're going to college first, getting their academics lined up first, and social life is very important too. So if you're going to make players do something, it has to be in line with their belief system and what they want to do.
Right. And I'm also sure that the recruiting process was completely different. I mean, these are all top programs, so I'm sure you got a lot of requests from players themselves, but how was that for you? And did you enjoy recruiting players?
Yeah, a lot of them did just come to me, and they wrote a lot of letters to me. Back then, we didn't really have the emails, but I got a lot of letters in the mail, and the ones that were handwritten were very impressive. I'll never forget getting one from a lady named Amy DeLone, and she wrote like a 4-page handwritten letter, and very impressed. When I saw her at the Nationals, I said, yeah, she's got the type of game we could utilize, and she became my number one recruit. And the recruiting was tricky, but at the same time, it wasn't that hard, because you're going to be getting some of the cream of the crop already looking at a school like Harvard.
And now it's so different. It makes me feel so old because I'm from Venezuela. So when I came here, I was actually, I never really planned on playing college and coming to the US, doing this whole thing until maybe my senior year. And I actually reached out to coaches and sent a VHS tape. There was no YouTube when I first came. So it was totally different scenario than what it is now. And it's all based on ranking points, no UTR. So yeah, that landscape has changed so much. Did you have to do a lot of travel? Like, how did that work for you back in the day?
Well, yeah, I was able to go to a couple of the national tournaments, but a lot of times it was very tricky because back then we didn't have a UTR to really nail down kind of what the kids' level would be. So they would come from all different sections around the United States, some international. It's a lot more international now, as you know. So a lot of them wanted to ask the question, Coach, where do I fit in with my SAT, my GPA, my ranking? Do you have any idea where I could fit in on your team? And that's kind of where I got the idea to start the College Tennis Academy and College Tennis Exposure Camp was right there at Harvard, and start my business right there at Harvard.
So how long have you been doing your college exposure camps? When did you start that?
Started in 1989, kind of set the seeds for the College Tennis Academy. And 1990 was our first official camp season where we went around the country with the concept of college tennis coaches working with junior players.
Okay. Also, it's a training camp for student athlete prospects to come in. I thought it was for recruiting to get seen by college coaches and things like that.
Yeah, it's a two-pronged benefit there. amongst other things, where there's a head college coach on each court working with the players. And now it's turned out to be a 2-day training and developmental camp, but it also, at the end of the day, has a great recruiting opportunity hanging as one of the benefits as well.
Okay. And what are some of the schools these coaches represent? Just throw me some names out there of what kind of coaches we're dealing with.
Yes, absolutely. We get a good mix of Division 1, 2, and 3 coaches. Like this camp that we're doing December 9th and 10th in Lakeland, we'll have Division 1 coaches such as Wake Forest head women's coach, Mercer University coach Eric Hayes, who's been with me about 35 years with the camps. We'll have Boston College head men's coach Scott Big Daddy Wilkins. He's going to be coming to work the camp. We have the University of West Florida, Derek, the Canadian rocker Racine, coming. He's won some national championships. Florida Sunshine's coach, you might know Trish. We call her the hydrator because she loves keeping the camp hydrated. On the men's side, we've got Rhett Rollison. We call him Sunshine because he's got so much enthusiasm and it's such high energy coming into a camp. He makes the kids really jump,
Yeah.
So we got in St. Leo, we've got their head coach who's National College Coach of the Year. Chad Berryhill's coming. Lynn's, their head women's coach, Bev Buckley's coming. And they all enjoy coaching the camp and picking up players from the camp. And we usually get maybe 14 head coaches working each day on the court with the players. And the parents can enjoy the atmosphere because we put on a little bit of rock and roll and make it a lot of fun, where winners are moving up and those learners are moving down. But hey, we always keep the score and you tell those kids, check your ego at the door.
That's awesome. And how long do the camps last?
It's two full days, and they have to come in with their parent or their private coach, and they stay at a hotel. And we work all day with them in live ball drill situations, as well as college team style matches.
That's really good. I'm sure that's a great experience for someone that wants to play college, just kind of the networking and getting to train similar to what they would be doing once they go to college. So that's awesome. I wish I had something like that when I was I was in high school.
I know a lot of coaches tell me the same thing,
I'm sure. And one-on-one doubles, how did you come up with that whole concept? Yeah, let's just talk about that. How you develop that? I mean, did that start from a drill that you like to do? Because maybe you can also explain, just in case somebody doesn't understand what one-on-one doubles is.
Yes. So in 2004, I came up with the idea to run these one-on-one doubles tournaments. And really, I took it from an old drill that people used to play, cross-court, serve and volley, with the alley included. And I learned it from Coach Creasy at Clemson. We did it for practice sets to get the kids ready to play serve and volley doubles. And boy, it worked so well there. We had 4 teams, Jen, ranked in the top 30 in Division I. And I accredited a lot of it to the one-on-one doubles practice sets they were playing, And then when I took it over to Harvard to work with the women, we played a lot of one-on-one doubles, and it really helped them with their serve and volley doubles, to the extent that we were one of the only women's team serving and volleying on both first and second serve.
Yeah.
And so I would have to say we dabbled in it for 10 years at our camp, but then I thought, why not make it into a serious 4-hour tournament and get the USTA behind it and sanction? And they said, hey, we love the idea. We'll sanction it right away.
And then maybe can you explain how it works?
Sure. So one-on-one doubles is the cross-court serve and volley singles game with the alley included. Players have to serve and volley on both first and second serve, or they lose the point. Half volleys are allowed. So it really does promote the serve and volley. Yeah. And then the returner can stay back or come in based on what he or she wants to do. And then all players are awarded a 2-point bonus for the winning volley and overhead that's hit out of the air that the opponent cannot touch. So that's a 2-point bonus that the players are getting now for putting a volley or overhead away, Jen.
Is that a new rule, by the way, the 2-point rule?
So it's about 3 or 4 years old now. And I thought it would be kind of cool to add that in. And some former ATP pros had given me some of these ideas,
Okay. Yeah. I think that makes it a little bit tougher, for sure. I mean, those, a point that counts as two, that's a big game changer right there. But it's a really fun concept. My husband played in a tournament, and that's when I first kind of learned about it. And then I became kind of obsessed with doing that as a drill. When I was coaching college, I had my girls do that drill all the time because, like you said, it's so good at getting you comfortable coming to the net. Serving and volley, something that definitely juniors and college players do not tend to do, right? So I think as a drill itself, it's brilliant. And yeah, I think everyone should be doing that, even if it's not on a tournament base, but even just to use it for your players. I think it's a great way to improve.
Yeah, absolutely. I fell in love with it, and we kind of, wanted to keep celebrating this game. And we've always had some good live music with the events, or we'll have a DJ there to make it a fun atmosphere, because it is a little bit of pressure having a serve and volley,
Especially if you're not used to that, if you're used to playing singles and just being a baseline banger, it's completely out of your box. So it's great. How big are your draws usually?
The draws, let's see. I tell you, during COVID, we had the biggest draw we've ever had with 79 players, 80 players. And of course, we had a mix of open, 40 and over, and 60 and over. So that was the biggest we've ever had. I would say most of the draws, if we were to run just an open, is usually between 20 to 30 players. They're pretty high level players that play because of the technical aspects of serving and volleying and attacking the net. You're not going to get just any player to want to sign up and play, but the ones that are truly serious about getting their game to the next level and that feel that they're pretty good at it, those are the ones that are going to enjoy playing and signing up.
Yeah, and you kind of take this all over the country. I know, I think I saw you were even at the US Open.
Yes, we've had so many great events, over 150 of them since we started. And I would say some of our best events in 2008 and 2009 was at an ATP tournament in Sunrise. And we had a 32 draw, many ATP players playing. And the finals was played on stadium court. And so you have players that were top 30, 40, 50 in the world playing there, Jen.
Wow.
And that was really nice. And I would say we had 4 events at the home of the US Open, which the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center sponsored. And those were really nice events at their indoor tennis center. And I'll tell you, the Wimbledon doubles champion named Jared Palmer won one of the events in 2009. So that was exciting. And you get a lot of good high-level college players jumping in, and some former ATP players as well.
Yeah, I'm sure the prize money is an extra little motivator there for sure. Was it always a priced event? How did you start it?
Well, started it in 2004 at Hunter's Green Country Club, 3 events here in Tampa. And we put a little bit of prize money in there, not as much, I think maybe $500 to the winner. And the first player that signed up wrote me a 2-page letter from, I think he was coming from Arkansas. His name was Peter Doohan. And Peter Doohan, Jen, was the guy who upset Boris Becker at Wimbledon in 1989, I believe. Oh. And I met him at a national doubles tournament in Savannah. And I gave him one of my flyers, and he says, "Ed, I can't believe you're running." He goes, "I'm so excited. I'm coming all the way from Arkansas." So I told the newspaper about it, and they wrote a front page article about the event. And I said, "I'm really onto something here because he's coming. We're going to get a whole bunch more coming,
And how does one go about doing something like you just did? I mean, you started something brand new and you got money for players. How did you start getting more and more prize money? Is it all through sponsors? How did that work out?
Yeah, usually it's getting the excitement of the tennis community where they have they put up a little bit of money on their end for represent their business. And so, as you know, sponsorships, it's a two-way benefit there where they can also advertise their business. Some individuals will make donations to advance the game of tennis through one-on-one doubles, but mainly it's small businesses will sponsor one-on-one doubles tournaments at different clubs around the East Coast. And we've had some on the West Coast, but mainly East Coast.
Yeah, you're kind of all over. Do you get requested, or are you kind of like reaching out to places? How do you go about that?
Well, in the beginning, it was more reaching out to places where you have to hustle to get your venues and your players, this type of thing. But as it started getting more popular, I started fielding a lot more interest emails, Jen, and phone calls from different directors that run clubs and even college coaches wanting to host events. I just got off the phone with a coach that wants to host an event in the summer, and we're also going to be hosting some more events on college campuses. So I think the college campus is a great venue because I think that's where they're playing most one-on-one doubles is on college campuses.
And are you at all the events, or do you just kind of let somebody else run them?
Well, it's a combination. It depends on what the venue wants. If some of them feel comfortable running an event on their own, that works great. But a lot of times they want me there with my megaphone and jazzing it up with all the music and helping them promote it and market it. But it can grow on its own organically with other coaches who have a passion to run a format like one-on-one doubles.
You definitely bring a lot of energy to the event, and you obviously can see your passion about the event just because how much you pump everybody up and how you do your introductions of the players. I think that's a very special little nugget that maybe it definitely would be missing, right, if you weren't there. So it's always fun to see. I've been now to a couple and it's so fun.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, and that's one of the reasons I started the one-on-one doubles. I thought it would be an opportunity to gel the tennis community together more and give some love and respect to everybody and let them all feel comfortable coming and playing this, what I call this third game of tennis, one-on-one doubles.
Yeah, they're all so fun and so well ran. So congratulations to you on all that. What do you think is key to running such a smooth and successful event? Just as advice to tennis directors or tennis pros that are running events and not necessarily one-on-one doubles, but obviously we're all doing that through our clubs.
Yeah, I think getting good marketing and promotions behind it, designing a nice flyer, spending a little extra money to market an event, letting everybody know through your email program, also your social media. I think you're making posters, getting people excited about it, talking to players, texting players. It is calling people. It's a full-time job promoting a tournament, yet alone running one. So I can see why a lot of tennis pros that are so busy making money with their programs and lessons, if they're not really into running a tournament at least once a year, then it's going to be a lot of extra work for somebody who's never had experience with it. So I would say learn under somebody who's had experience running a big event or tournament, and then you grow from there if you get some good mentorship,
I agree. I think marketing, communication, that's all super, super important. And then I really like I was saying, how you make everyone feel excited during the event and welcoming everybody in. I feel like you know everybody. And even if you don't, you act like you do.
You got to study the people's background. A lot of these people that come in, they all have good background playing tennis. And I think they have, if you study their background and you give them a little respect, that megaphone really does help. I mean, a lot of coaches don't feel comfortable using one. It's like a football coach does because you have more area and more players to talk to. Or having a PA system really helps add to it. But tennis has been a little stodgy in the way where you put the two players on the court and that's it, give them a can of balls, and that's that. I think we got to give the players a little more respect than that and get the fans into it a little more.
That's such a good point, because you go to a tennis tournament and unless it's someone that you love, someone in your family or whatever that's playing, and you're going to go to their court and sit down there for a couple hours and just kind of watch them play, it's not necessarily the most inviting and engaging situation for people, especially if the parents or friends or whoever it is are not tennis players. So I think that that's another piece that coaches can learn from you, and the way that you run these events is just kind of witnessing how you're constantly engaging the spectators, right? You make it a spectator event. It's not just a player event. So I think that's really, really special. Was that your intention when you kind of created it this way?
No, I think it kind of evolved over the years to become a little bit more entertainment, shall we say,
Yeah.
for the spectators. With a little bit of the live music. My music background has been rock and roll and blues, and I always felt like the music could loosen up the tennis part of it, because it's been so quiet, please, for I don't know, since 1870, Jen. And then I asked myself, well, who said everybody had to be so quiet? And somebody said some French guy in 1870, and he's not around anymore.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like to say the silence is lifted and our game is gifted.
Yeah. And do you ever get complaints of, oh, it's too loud, it's too noisy, or anything like that?
Not really. We just have a good band playing for maybe the first couple hours during the round robin, and people know about it because we advertise we're going to have a live band. But if it's going to be at an ATP tournament or WTA or maybe a bigger event for television, which we've had 8 of them, we don't play any music during the matches if they're televised. But we'll have a live concert, maybe celebrate the event afterwards, Jen.
That's so cool. And then I didn't realize that you have presented at so many different conventions and things like that. What were you presenting about? Was that about college? What were kind of the topics that you were covering?
Well, like a lot of it was our governing body of college tennis is the Intercollegiate Tennis Association, and I've been a member of them since 1986 or 85. So I used to speak at some of these conventions about promoting college tennis, and also on court about how to become a better coach on court, and share some of your secrets like coaches do about how to improve your singles and your doubles and then one-on-one double skills. So all of a sudden, I think it was in 2004, I had about 16 coaches sneak on the court, and we played one-on-one doubles at a convention because there was nothing going on. And they got wind that we had a very successful tournament, and they asked me right there and then, would I like to run the tournament next year officially? And so we did about 15 years in a row of college coaches one-on-one doubles tournaments with prize money. So that's how that got started. And so the college coaches all started to say, wow, we're going to make this an official format for tennis. Let's play ourselves and let's try to win some money and have fun with it.
Do you have any tips for anyone that is wanting to get better at one-on-one doubles?
Yes, I would say definitely practice about 15 minutes of mid-court volleys, right about a foot behind the service line, and go cross court and work on those shoe shine mid-court volleys, half volleys, low volleys, and get that continental slice volley going, and learn how to adjust a little bit of the grips for the half volleys. And then as you get good at those low volleys, coming forward is a little bit easier because as you're closer to the net, we know it's more of a party up there. But those mid-court volleys is really where we got to get the foundation of confidence. And then after that, they can work on serving right around a little behind that service line, maybe about 5 feet behind the service line. Serve from there and then come up and make that first volley. So there's progressions of one-on-one doubles. You don't have to do the whole program, Jen, because it gets a little scary in the beginning for some players. But at our camps, we'll have them serve maybe from 5 feet behind the service line, and the returner will hit it and come in. And that server will be right there as well to make the volley. So there's progressions they have to learn before they play the whole game.
Yeah, those are great pointers. And I think for some players, I think if they've played competitively, it's easier. But if it's a recreational player, I think the hardest thing for them is definitely, well, one, finishing the serve and not just rushing in, right? Finish the serve and then kind of run in. And then the split step, I think it's so hard sometimes for recreational players, right? To like learn how to time. So I think that, this is like the best practice you can do to really work on that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, with the 2-point play, the recreational players will be incentivized to get to the net and volley that ball. Yeah. Now, whether or not they're serving and volleying is up to their coach or who's running that particular practice, clinic, or tournament. but it's been real serve and volley oriented with this game. It kind of makes it more exciting than just staying back, and anybody can kind of hit that backcourt back and forth.
Right. And then kind of going back to how you've presented at all these different places, do you have any advice for pros about presenting? Why should they consider it, or any tips?
Sure. I would say if you have a good concept or a good talk that you would like to give at one of these conventions, usually the convention would want to have a nice letter from you or an outline about how you're going to cover the presentation, and then information about where you have presented this information, this topic before. Do you have any experience speaking? They're going to want to know that as well. So sometimes you just have to, kind of sell yourself as to how good your talk's going to be. And then, of course, what type of experience you bring to the table, because a lot of times they don't want to take a chance on somebody who doesn't have any experience speaking.
Sure.
So some people have to start somewhere. So a lot of times they can be recommended by other coaches that they're very good speakers. Even if they have no experience, they can sometimes have an opportunity to present their material in front of all those other coaches.
Yeah. Is it similar at all? I mean, I've never spoken at any conference or anything like that, but would you say it's kind of similar to when you're teaching?
It's different because you have a group of coaches that are pretty well versed in all aspects of tennis.
Yeah.
So it has a combination of some teaching elements and some entertainment elements, public speaking elements, and and when you can do all that, that makes you a much better, I think, professional in the long run.
What has been your favorite part of coaching at either college or wherever? What has been your favorite part as a tennis professional?
I would say some memories that I've had was helping develop the team at Clemson with their double skills and their quick volley skills, and seeing how good they became. And they came almost a few points from winning the national title. We lost to Stanford in the quarters in front of about 7,000 people at the University of Georgia on those courts there. And I think that was a great experience that I had, coaching the teams at Harvard and getting to the ITA national indoors and winning some big matches. I think we beat University of Wisconsin, was great. I remember losing to UCLA out there. It was a nice experience. So you have all these. I think coaching world team tennis in 1991 was a fantastic experience for me. We played in a stadium that held 20,000 people, and we would get about 7,000 or 8,000 at the matches. And boy, that was a lot of pressure because world team tennis was 2 guys, 2 gals, and that was getting the team ready. Yeah. Of course, we had top players that were top 50 in the world singles and doubles playing for us. So I've had a lot of great experiences coaching, but then running the camps as well as these one-on-one doubles tournaments, they all have special experiences, and you have great memories from them. And if I keep taking my fish oil every day, my brain will stay well connected to enjoy those experiences.
Yeah, I remember World Team Tennis. I played it recreationally after I graduated from college. And that was a really different format, and it was really fun. Why do you think that World Team Tennis kind of disappeared? I don't know what happened to it.
Well, it's still going, Jen. I believe it was I think it might have been on ESPN COVID, and it was some of the most exciting tennis, or CBS Sports Network. And they do have their own television deal, I believe, this year. I think it goes on just in September to the end of September. But you don't hear as much about it as you used to. But I think it's still a great thing. We'd have to study it a little bit online and see how many teams are playing now.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't heard about World Team Tennis in such a long time, but it's such a cool concept to have professional tennis be played as a team sport. That alone, I think it's a great concept. Very different from what professional tennis looks like, obviously, but I wish it had a little bit more success. Maybe it needs to get better marketed.
I mean, they've been doing it for about 35 years. It's Billie Jean King's league. I think she's done really well with it. And I think it's mainly captures 1 month out of the professional tennis season, but they've been getting some pretty big names. And Some years are bigger than others. So it's tough to make it fit into the realm of all of professional tennis. And I think she's done as good as anybody could potentially do with something like that. I love my experience that 1 year I did.
That's awesome. And now this is kind of it can be considered, I guess, a loaded question, I've been told, but it doesn't have to be that serious. But are there, you've seen it all. I mean, you've had such a long career in tennis, and have experienced a bunch of different things in the tennis industry, from coaching college to running events to being world team tennis. You've dealt with coaches. Is there anything that in the years that you have done this that you would like to maybe see change for the future of the tennis coaching industry?
Well, I tell you, as you know, and you had Ann Grossman on a little bit ago, and I watched her. She talked about how cutthroat it is out there with coaches. And that's one of the reasons I started the college tennis exposure camp, is to allow coaches from Division 1, 2, and 3, NAIA, junior college, to all socialize together and grow the game together. And I see more opportunity, like the USPTA allows coaches to come together, teachers, and kind of brainstorm ideas and grow the game together that way. The Professional Tennis Registry does the same thing. So I think if we can have more of these type of opportunities for coaches to learn from each other, maybe once a month have a get together with coaches in certain towns like Tampa. We don't have this anymore, but maybe you have a lunch. USPTA may be doing this in certain districts, but I don't hear about it too much. Maybe a lunch once a month or every 3 months with all the pros in the club in the area. Get together and brainstorm ideas. This type of thing would help grow tennis tremendously.
Yeah, I think everyone now is so busy. It's like everything's online now. So that's kind of why I'm doing this. So at least we have, something.
Oh, it's fabulous. And I like your reasoning behind it too. It's fabulous.
Thank you. And then Ed, before you go, I want to ask you, what has been the Grand Slam moment and the double bagel moment of your career?
I would say one of the highs has been, running a one-on-one doubles tournament at an ATP tournament, and also at a USTA Women's Challenger, where a French Open semifinalist lady played and won it. I would say that was really exciting, having one-on-one doubles at that high level, and putting that tape down the middle of the court, where that's kind of like our patent there. So that was really exciting. Kind of seeing the pinnacle of the game keep growing. That's been super exciting. The bagel part, that could have been my first year coaching at Harvard, where you don't get the respect of some of the players, and you only get their anger and ire, and because they don't want to agree with anything you say. And that made me feel a little crummy, because it was the critical part of coaching on their end made the job a little unenjoyable that first year at Harvard. But then, you learn to get tough skin.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to receive you the way you want to be received,
Yeah.
So that can happen for any tennis professional or tennis director, where you're not being well received by a certain few individuals, and they make your job awful tough. And that they're always in your head, those negative comments, or even though they may have no validity at all, it's that negative criticism by a few can ruin it for a coach if they let it.
Yeah. How did you get to the other side of that?
Well, a lot of it is doing what you believe is the right thing to do, and just communicating with the people that are on your team. And, some of the people that are not on your team, that you have to try to win them over at some point. And that first year at Harvard was difficult. I think a few of the girls didn't see eye to eye with what I was trying to do. Challenge matches, maybe too much pressure, they thought. Running them to the airport by mistake might have been too much. And then playing challenge matches after that run to the airport might have been too much. The match scores came out lopsided, so that might have been too much. And so you learn, and thank God the support was there from the athletic administration, and at the end of the year, we won the Ivy League title and the dust settled, you know?
That's good that you had that support. That's so important. And yeah, the reason I asked that question is because I think sometimes those are the moments that we learn from the most. And earlier on, you were talking about how much you learned from coaching at Harvard, a different type of, definitely a different type of student athlete. So I'm sure that that made you a better coach in the long run, right? Because now you are able to connect with and coach a different type of player that's not used to being coached a certain way, like, just doing whatever the coach tells them to do.
Yes, and I think that's the climate we're dealing with now in college tennis, whether it be Division 1, 2, or 3, scholarship or no scholarship, Jen. I think the climate has changed where the power has shifted more to the player. And so the coach has to be very respectful and mindful that that player is very important, and their perception and their beliefs are important too. So it's not so much my way or the highway. You've got to really coexist with the player, and they have to respect you as a person and as a coach. So it's gotten to be a more difficult job these days.
I see that even at the junior level, sometimes you have to explain a lot more than you used to, right? To the parents and to the player as well. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it is part of the evolution, right? Of, I don't know, just how everything has changed, not just in the coaching world, but just in general, different generations, right? But yeah, I definitely see that at all ages.
Yeah, absolutely. And the parents are a big part of this process, and they need to be praised as well, because if it wasn't for the parents, the kids would not be where they're at today.
Mm-hmm. And I forgot to ask you this earlier. I wanted to see if you had any advice for coaches that are working with high school players, how they can maybe help them go and play college tennis, because I think there's something missing with the high school coach, or not necessarily the coach for the high school team, but that age group, right? High school age players, whoever their coach is. I don't see them a lot of the time getting involved in the college recruiting process or like helping out the student athlete. I don't know if you've had a different experience, but that's definitely what I have seen. So I don't know if you have any advice.
Yes, I mean, a lot of high school coaches, or a lot of them are maybe high school professors that are maybe paid a little extra to manage the team, coach the team, and they don't have a lot of coaching experience. Then some of these high schools will reach out and they will get an experienced tennis coach. So a lot of it is by chance what type of coach that high school is going to hire. But I think that high school tennis coaching experience can be a great thing for these kids to prepare for college tennis. And I think there's a big gap between the high school coach and their teaching professional that's coaching those kids. So I think there needs to be a meeting with those two, the teaching pro and the high school coach, on how that kid's going to best represent the high school, and how these parties can work together and all come together to help that kid become the best player they can be. And that's why I kind of created my college tennis exposure camp, so those high school kids can come and get to train with those college coaches. Now, we charge $8.95 for the camp, but think about the opportunity and how much it costs to play college tennis. Well, the kids travel from tournament to tournament to tournament, and they spend a lot of money doing that. And sometimes they need to stop and smell the coffee and see what they've been working towards. There's a lot of college placement services that charge $5,000 to $8,000 to $10,000 to try to help their kid get placed. Well, the parent has to start saving up a lot of money. Maybe the parent's got enough to pay $70,000 a year. They got to get the best college they can get academically for their kid, you know?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But I always felt like my camp was a great investment for the kid's future. And that's kind of why we keep going, because a lot of the coaches help network those kids into different colleges.
Yeah. When is your next camp?
And you're welcome to come, Jen. It's December 9th and 10th at the Bierman Family Tennis Center in Lakeland, between Tampa and Orlando.
Very cool. And is that on the same website or is it a different website?
The website for that is collegetennis.com.
Okay.
And we got that in 1995 when the website came in.
I was going to say, how did you get that?
Yeah, right. Isn't that nice? So that's collegetennis.com. And that's our college tennis exposure camp. And the one-on-one doubles tournaments, oneononedoubles.com.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Ed, for talking with us today. And best of luck with the college camp, the one-on-one doubles, all the great stuff that you're doing.
Oh, thanks so much for having me on. I really enjoyed talking to you, Jen. You've been my favorite host of all the podcasts. I've had some good podcasts, but there's some other great ones too. But you've been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Ed. Thank you so much for listening to Vida Tennis. I really hope that you're enjoying these episodes. And if you are, which I think you are, let me know by leaving a review on the platform you're tuning in from. That would be absolutely amazing. You can always reach out to me at vidatennispodcast@gmail.com if you have any specific questions, comments, or if you just want to say hi. Remember, I want to give you a shout out, so send me a message or a voice message through our site answering which episode of Vida Tennis has been your favorite in 2024. I wish you all the best, and I cannot wait for you to see what is next here at Vida Tennis. We have some really fun stuff coming up real soon. I will see you next week for another episode of Vida Tennis.